Please, Glenn. Okay. So we're live. Good afternoon. Welcome to everyone for coming to our special meeting of School County Commissioners of July 31st, 2023 at 5 p.m. This is a special meeting to discuss 3 resolutions. I'll call this meeting to order at 5:01. Invocation, who would like to do it? Would you like to do it?
Bocc?
I've never heard you
Oh, yeah.
substitute.
Every time I do it, you're done.
Yeah. It's done.
Lord, thank you for bringing us all together today to do the community's work, guide the commission and all those involved in the daily processes and operations of this county government, the wisdom and insight to make good and sound decisions. Bless everybody in this room as they work to try to achieve everything they can within their daily lives. Keep them safe.
Amen. Next item is Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, Joe. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Joe Gonzalez,
Here.
Vice Chair Craig Sotero, Commissioner John Aguilar, Commissioner Glenn Duggan,
Here.
Chairman Antonio Ray Martinez.
President. Approval of agenda. Commissioners, you've had a chance to review the special meeting agenda. If any changes or anything, or if there isn't, need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Duggins to approve, second by Commissioner Gonzalez. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The agenda is approved. Item 7, action items. A, consideration of resolution 2023-64, approving and accepting the fiscal year 23 fourth quarter financial report. Thank you, sir.
Chairman, Commissioners, what you have in front of you is going to be the final numbers for the fiscal year FY23. Give me a second to get situated so I can go over everything with you. Any of all funds did pretty well. There was no funds that were over budget, aside from I think, no, that's a geo bond. Nope, there's no funds that were extremely over budget. I made a couple of adjustments that we'll go through later to absorb or cover the expenses you decided throughout the year, but there was no funds that after reviewing.
Go ahead.
That means everybody finished the fiscal year within their budget.
So it was good.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for you, Mike. I don't know if this pertains to it, but I've been seeing the emails going back and forth from the Forest Service. And their fiscal year ends in October. We haven't received any money from them. What about the last year's money? Did we spend all of that? The last time we had a contract with them?
Chairman, Commission, so on the U.S. Forest Service, we haven't had, that contract was 5 years, we're actually on the 6th year. And we had met trying to get the 5-year in place, and so that was finally settled, and then I think I sent you an update where they sent me that we're on the last leg of getting the 1 year within the 5-year contract ready to be approved. I signed and sent it in, but it needs the district manager out of, I believe it's out of Albuquerque. And that was they were only authorizing 15,000. So we haven't done we've done work, but it's at our cost. And that it's only gonna be 15,000, and their fiscal year ends September 30th, I think. Because the new one begins October 1st. And so our hope is that we get that back and signed so we can spend that 15,000. And then because there are some roads out there that are in dire need. And also those roads are only supposed to be maintained up to a level 2 Forest Service level road, which is far less stringent than a county road. So within that, that's where we're at. So my fingers crossed, I'm hoping by mid-August we get something that gives us mid-August, September, about 6 weeks to spend 15 grand, and I'm sure we can spend it pretty quickly. Still waiting for that signed counter signature to come back.
And thanks, Mike. I think when you sent that email to Senator Hunt to ask for his help or his aid, and I guess they kind of pushed it through a little quicker.
Yes, sir. Nick Maestas, who works well with me on different items, and he seems to have pushed some buttons that made some things work, so which is good. About ready to reach out with them to see what they can do with BLM and our San Antonio project. Right, same type of thing.
Commissioners, I'd like to ask for your permission to request a public meeting. I talked to Tina, the district ranger, Magdalena. They lowered our amount, and we had a public meeting with the public that came. A lot of people came to that meeting, so they'll be aware of what we're going to do. We're supposed to supply. No, she is supposed to supply us with a list of the roads that they want done. And that money's not gonna last.
But they're paying a lower amount.
They lowered the amount that they gave us. So.
The
that-
forestry did?
Yes. So now so the public needs to know that if they call, and we've already done that road, what do we tell them, Senator? Well, what I wanna tell them is call the Forest Service, because according to, this is a list they gave us, this is the money we have, that's it. Some of those roads we did.
I guess my question would be, Chair, do they have to allow public access to roads? Since it's Forest Service? Yeah, they do.
Well, Mr. Chairman, the amount of money that they're saying they're gonna give for the amount of roads or whatever roads they need, is it to the point where it's a deficit to us? I mean, is what they're giving us, will that pay the cost or no?
Even when they give us about in between 24 to 26,000, it never pays our costs. We're always, because there's county community members out there, we're always assisting with our costs, our equipment, our manpower. We hope to also negotiate the new yearly agreement hopefully by September. And they said they're hoping that that amount will go back up to 26,000, but they're not quite sure whether that'll be possible or not. But we always, we never make money on that.
So I know you say there's people out there, but if it's their road, then are we obligated by law to, why do we do it? I mean, this is what I'm thinking. Maybe it's time to play a little hardball with them and write the check. You know? And until the check's there, well, the grader's gonna stay in the yard. I don't know.
Well, Commissioner, that's the reason I'm asking for your permission, the commissioners to have a public meeting. So all the public knows what's going on. And that way, that's the way it's gonna be. It's, when the Forest Service gives us a list of the roads, that's the ones we're gonna do. That's not to say that if something happens, another emergency, and the forest calls us and say, I need your help. Well, it'll be a commission decision, but I feel that, we're not gonna, I don't think we deny it. People can't get out. But it's like the forest supervisor, Stephen Humbach, told us that that's what did he say? The roads were 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they're not gonna make it to, so people, they're gonna have 4-wheel drive for some of those roads. It's up to them. But I want them to hear the same thing again, so that way, when they call,
Well,
they don't mind doing it.
Lead somehow, let the public, after
The heat will come from the public to the
Right.
Forest Service. And I
But-
think,
the grader doesn't move, it'd be a lot more.
well, it's not gonna move it. Once we finish those roads. So, if you don't mind, Mike, maybe we can schedule it for September or October. And a meeting then, talk to Tina and tell her, that way she can tell her people. Like we did the last time, I think it worked well.
So we're obligated already to do the roads that they,
Yeah, because they, once they sign that contract.
but we haven't signed.
We signed, we accepted it. 15,000. Correct, Mike?
Yeah, we followed this standard protocol, just that because for some reason they were so far behind the curve. I still don't know why. Obviously, they only had a certain amount of money left and just came up with the amount of 15,000 for the remaining federal fiscal year. And so within that, they have a list of roads, a long list. And then we're supposed to actually get together and say, okay, which are your priority roads and which ones do we respond to during emergency situations? That's what we're gonna do now with the 15,000, and then with the, if we agree on the new agreement, it's like 26 grand, we'll do the same thing, so many miles of certain roads that they know have the most amount of traffic, but that still doesn't mean that we respond with equipment and personnel and funds when there are people stranded and we have to rebuild a road or put in culverts. We still have to get their permission even to do an emergency response to work on those roads, and we can't touch it. And so we have citizens that are raising Cain because they believe they're county roads, which they're not. Even when we acknowledge that, or they acknowledge that the Forest Service roads, they still want us to do something. And of course, you have seniors out there. Some can't get food, some can't get medical services. So I think last year we spent 30-some thousand just to install a culvert and rebuild the curb, I think it was. That might be a little short, it might have been 35,000, but we don't get reimbursed for it.
Okay. Any questions from Sammy on the budget?
Mr. Chairman, I was gonna ask about the culverts in Alamo. You have 500,000
Which,
Alamo culverts.
And then,
It's, I don't know, I'm right here. I'm just sitting right here.
45, 56.
Page 3. It's that too.
Yeah. Got the midway point on the top.
Is that to replace, I mean, we're still owed the 300 and some thousand for FEMA, right?
So, Chairman, Commissioner Duggins, we actually have $3.2 million that we were awarded in grants, different grants that we put in for. We're like at 95% design engineering done. Also, I just signed another task order. This engineering is bringing on a agency that's very familiar with the Navajo territory, Navajo reservation and territory regulations. So we're going to start working on trying to get us all the clearances. But we have 3.2 overall to get that project done. And
So that money specifically for that?
yeah, 3.2 million. The 365,000 actually reached out to the Secretary of NMDOT through a conversation I was having with somebody else, because the Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management has never reimbursed us 365,000. I just got an email before the meeting where the Secretary of NMDOT said he was willing to give us a hand to try to see how we could bring about getting us our funding. So I wrote him a letter last week, or Friday before last, and he's responded. So we're going to try to work at that angle.
So if you remember, I asked Commissioner Secretary maybe if he could lean on somebody like the governor of the Navajo Nation. I mean, I've had a letter from the governor of the Navajo Nation to get you that meeting about how can we go about that?
So, Chairman, Commissioner Duggins, I actually reached out to the council delegate, who's the equivalent of Congress and the Navajo Nation, and asked that, and had a meeting also with some people at the state legislature, had a certified meeting, like a committee meeting. And we all talked about that. At that time, I think the election for the Navajo president was going on. So if this doesn't work, we've had conversations about what I used to do when I was out in Alamo. I used to sit outside, I would get a room in Window Rock and sit there for 3 days and sit outside that office until finally met the people we needed to meet and got things rolling. So if this doesn't work, that will probably be the next step, along with going with the council delegate and some other people, probably the chapter president as well.
Good. Maybe, Mr. Chairman, is it possible going in the future when we do road work, culverts, whatever we do, that we get some type of match from the Navajo Nation? If they were in it too, we wouldn't be waiting probably. I mean, I think it's fair, and I think it would, even if it was 25% or something, I mean, they surely have a budget on roads and things like that, I would think. Is that right, Hans?
They certainly do, but I think this exemplifies the problem with the Navajo Nation and the Alamo chapter. They don't do anything for the Alamo chapter. They're sure not going to put in money. I mean, that's why the county's doing it. Really, if in the proper legal world, the Navajo Nation should be taking care of those roads.
Right.
We're doing it because no one else will, and they're our constituents.
And they are, but there's no property tax up there either. I mean, I just think it's fair. And if they had skin in the game
Oh, I think it's completely fair. I just know how they are.
You would think that the people of the Alamo could somehow raise their hand. Or, I mean,
They hardly do anything for those people. It's a shame.
Well, Chairman Martinez, Commission, so the Alamo chapter is very limited in resources. I believe their annual budget, when I was there, hovered around $500,000, where the organization I worked for was, I built it up, I believe, when I left, it was 54 million a year. So, how can I put this without being derogatory? They just, there's 132 satellite reservations on the Navajo Nation. Alamo is one of those 132. So because of geography, population, location, a lot of those places are left to fend for themselves in a way that they're not monetarily supported by the Navajo Nation government. That's the best way to put it. So if we're reaching out for them, I would reach out not only to the chapter, but the Alamo School Board Incorporated, who does have some fiscally and also some political connections as well.
If you know, well, Mike, how it is to work out there. The school board, chapter, is different. You have to go to one of the meetings to see. Like, the last meeting I went to, I was requested to go because remember, right there by the Rio Salao, the bridge was washing away, half of the road was gone. And I had gone out there a long time, so I went and I couldn't believe the condition. Oh, there was only 3 cars in front. That was a DOT issue. That was a DOT road. So when I met with them, I told them what they had to do. They lost their operators. They have 2 graders, brand new, no operators. The guy's retired. And I told JJ, he's on that chapter, I said, what I would do is you guys need to meet with the school board and see, an agreement. Because right now, they don't pay us for those roads like they used to, right? Like the ones that
Actually, the county used to pay us. I had my own road department out there, and the county paid us.
Oh, that's right.
I used to say it was a minuscule house, but now I'm on the county, so we were very generous. The county did a very generous, 17,000 a year. That's what they used to give us, 17,000
For you guys to blade it.
for us to blade it, and we had personnel and equipment to try to keep up with 17 grand. But obviously, I developed other revenue sources, but the county's take was 17. And there's 3 different kind of roads out there. People don't understand.
Yeah.
There's nobody's roads,
School bus roads.
county roads, also Navajo Nation, or Navajo Nation.
Well, I think that pass this information to Commissioner Secretary. And I think that if he wants, he would be going to the meeting. We might can see if we could work something out to help him. Because I agree, it'd be nice if they could help us with some funds to be able to do the road there. Especially now that they don't have, unless they've hired somebody recently to do the roads. We'll see. We'll talk Commissioner Secretary. We'll see. Any more questions on the budget? So we ended up in a good year.
It was a very good year.
Good. Questions? Need a motion to approve and accept the fiscal year 23-4 financial report, if there isn't any more questions.
Make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Gonzalez, second by Commissioner Aguilar. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Resolution 2023-64, approving and accepting the fiscal year 23 fourth quarter financial report is approved. Item B, consideration of resolution 2023-65, budget adjustment fiscal year bar 003. Thank you.
Chairman, Commissioners, this resolution is to pass a bar. On the page 2 after the resolution, you'll see where I actualize transfers. This is the transfer activity we want between funds to subsidize, like the jail general fund, to transfer in funds for contract management into the general fund, etc. That just actualizes the transfers that actually took place. The second page is going to be expenses. So these are going to be any of the funds you have that had a little bit of overspend in them. So you'll see the 41010, that's the commission fund, and I just brought up your opioid litigation expense to cover what came in and what was sent out. The PHI membership is usually $46.80, but the commission chose to pass and approve for the community, so it went up to $33,838. And then you have farm and range. The contract was a little over by $248. There's fire excise tax at $60,613. I believe it was on a vehicle and having it outfitted. LATCF, there was supplies purchased from there for one of the projects. Other special is going to be that public education department grant. It's just acknowledging the expenses that occurred on that contract. The other is the GEO bond collection fee. We collected more than we anticipated by $1,761. There was an NMFA loan that needed to be acknowledged. We had the wrong schedule, so we had to request the current schedule and it extended it 1 year. And then professional services for solid waste, and then other trusted agency. I think that's the Rio Abajo Community Library purchased some supplies. And that's it as far as expenses go. And then on the last page, or the last 2 pages, you'll see the revenue. It's actualizing the revenue we received for certain months. If you see anything on there that piques your interest, just let me know and I'll try to answer your question.
So the solid waste GRT, $70,000?
That's what was originally budgeted. Let me get to where you're at. And it came in actually at $82,812.
That's what we got.
That's what was got to us and that's what we transferred to Valley Sanitation.
And on that, professional fees for solid waste, what is that?
I want, off the top of my head, I'm not sure, but it's most likely payable to Valley Sanitation. The only thing that comes out of there is contract management from the manager's office side, and then it's going to be to Valley Sanitation. Or other surveys, but I don't recall any surveys being done.
Any other questions, gentlemen? Any comments, Mike?
Mr. Chairman, I make that motion that we approve.
Second that.
Were you gonna say something?
We're at the discussion point. I really like the dollar amount in the LATCF. Getting ready to get another second tranche.
That's where we got the money invested. And we got,
That's what we got. We're expecting a second tranche, 3.6.
Should be within the next few months, but there's no definitive date on it.
And then how long does this keep going? Tranche? good money.
I think that's it. I believe it was a one-time federal allocation.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Duggins to approve resolution 2023-65 budget adjustment for fiscal year 23/003. Is there a second?
I think Joe seconds it.
A second, Joe?
I was,
Okay,
I did the approve, you did.
oh, that's right, I did that.
you did the second?
I did the second. I thought that was on.
Second,
You did the.
Commissioner Gonzalez to approve. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Budget adjustment fiscal year 23/003 is approved. Item C, consideration of resolution 2023-66, adopting the final fiscal year 2023-2024 budget and acknowledging State of New Mexico Department of Finance Administration Local Government Division approval.
Chairman, Commissioners, this is the final budget. It matches exactly your interim budget with the exception of two changes. The first is the RAISE program. They requested like 412,000, but the final award was for 315,000. So I adjusted that revenue and then altered the professional services. That's where they chose to take it from. And then the only other one is in the American Rescue Plan. I lessened the contractual services to acknowledge an expense that was made in the fourth quarter of FY23. And that's it. Otherwise, it's way past.
So I be 700,000, I heard right.
They requested more than 30,000. They didn't get their, because more applicants came.
Right.
Everybody was good with their budgets?
Everybody was, we met with all departments and communicated with all departments, and just in case your curiosity piques. The legislative appropriations, the 405, that's the major project the county anticipates in FY24. So that'll show you where the Three Tanks Road and Alamo Culverts is and any other projects that we have going on that you pass the contract on. It kind of just puts them all together for you to look at.
Road department, did it stay the same or on the budget?
Their budget didn't change. He was happy with his budget was when it was all said and done, and there wasn't any
No
drastic
changes.
requests. Yeah, no. It was good, and he did find a place, because if you recall, we had discussed about it being over some. And we figured out where to take funds from and where they planned projects to add funds to. So they should be okay for the upcoming year.
It was okay for one, I would say.
Yeah, for 1 year.
My final question from me, Sammy, is this is a budget. Do you give a report to the department heads quarterly or monthly to let them know how they're doing?
All departments, I step in quarterly because I manage the budget quarterly. All department heads have access to Tyler, and that have their budget in real time. So the same place they request to spend funds is the same place they can look at to see what they have remaining in their fund. They can use that every day, quarterly. Usually I only step in if there's like an extreme abuse of spend. So if you have 50% of your budget blown in first quarter, then I step in and halt spending or take more drastic measures. But they should keep up with it themselves daily, and then I'm quarterly.
So they know how to get into Tyler.
They have all had Tyler training. It's all in the same area, so they should all have that knowledge.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Also, Chairman, if I may, also in department begins to buy some type of equipment or some other project and or personnel, first thing I do is review their entire budget and say, okay, how are you gonna pay for this? Where are you gonna, like Joe said, are you gonna pay from, borrow from Peter to pay Paul, or what are you doing? Or let's see where you're at your current rate of expenditures based on your yearly budget. And then after that, then we also just sit down with Sammy, because the more eyes and more ears on the issue, the more clarity everybody has about where we stand budgetarily. And that's a constant.
Yes.
That's good, because like I know we approved the speed humps, and you were gonna look how we're gonna pay for that.
That meeting's this week. I've already set an abbreviated schedule, getting some dates where everybody can show up. There's another issue, some other stuff that I want to make sure we have, where we're going to pull the funds for, and that's some of the times where we have to do a VAR.
Yeah.
If we pull them, we understand that somewhere down the road, that's what we're going to have to make them up as a general fund.
San Antonio parking, you said you're gonna have to look at ones there also.
That's have a meeting scheduled, not scheduled yet, I'm waiting for them to reply what days are available, two departments, facilities and road.
And you approved the partial repairs in Hot Canyon, so
Yes, I did that.
that's why I asked if the road department got a little bit more money because of those projects that are coming up.
And you did authorize the fencing at the graveyard, and one point, all the estimates we got were getting close to 6,000, but we were able to finally purchase. We're gonna have to go with chain link. It's a little over $3,000, I think. We finally paid for it, so they're supposed to be delivering here pretty soon.
And that fencing them off is just for ease of people in the future, knowing where they are, or
Yeah, that's it. I think the mayor and everybody wanted, so nobody, well, he has people go up there. Here's the reason why we had this conversation when we were out there the last time. He took me to the side and he asked me about, he took the chairman to the side and said, is there any way we can fence this off? Let me tell you what my problem is. We have people that come in here, it's not a controlled cemetery. So they actually dig where other people are buried and place them, or displace and then place, or place on top and add new markings. So that, he didn't want to even go there. So that was what we came up with, fencing and a gate, entry gate, walking gate, and a driving gate.
Yeah, because people, they'll see the area and there's an opening up to be.
you're supposed to rest in peace.
I know, that's kind of good.
There was a lady that, remember I told him and you that she was marking all the graves. She had I don't know where that is. He said it wasn't at City Hall. I said, you guys need to get with her because she went through a lot of work for years in the past. And I also kind of asked him, I said, you know, what I would do is I would put a sign in the front of the entrance that they have to go to City Hall if they're gonna bury somebody, so they can plot them somewhere. So the village clerk can plot them, not for charging them or anything, but just an idea. Anybody can be buried there. We know they can go show them where they have.
I just assumed that the county clerk would have record of no graveyards, I mean, in our county?
And usually if it's at a church, they do. Like what we're doing, since we're given that section, we GPS everything and document it. But nothing like that.
So what did you say about church?
Most churches in their cemeteries, they have everything done. But others,
If a person wanted to search for somebody in Socorro County, there's no where to search other than the church, or like if you knew they were a member. But at that cemetery, that's not a church cemetery, right?
No, there's no requirement to record burials under the law.
I just assumed it was the clerks for the same day. So
Touch check the rules.
if I could, the time clock, is it on its way? Is it still, what's happening there? Do we need money for that or what?
So, like I said,